Welcome. The topic we will be discussing in this lecture is contiguous memory allocation. So basically the main memory must accommodate both operating system and the user process. So there is a question like where the operating system will be stored in the main memory and where the user process will be stored. Okay. Typically where it will be stored in the sense, typically the operating system will be stored in the lower address. The operating system will be stored in the lower address along with the interrupt vector table. Okay, so the lower address may start either from here or it may start from here. For our convenience, let us assume that lower address is starting from here. Okay, 000, this is the lower address, right? So here operating system will be stored and also interrupt vector table will be stored, which contains the address of different interrupt service routine. Okay, so interrupt vector table and operating system will be stored in the lower address. So let us assume that operating system and interrupt vectors table were stored starting from address 0000 to address 3000. Okay. So typically the operating system and interrupt vector table will be stored in the lower address. But there is no hard and fast rules. Maybe some operating system may assume that it is in the higher address. Okay. But for our discussions, we will consider that throughout our discussions, we will assume that operating system is stored in the lower address along with the interrupt vector table. Okay. And the remaining spaces will be used by the user processes. So now remaining this much empty space is there. So let us assume totally the memory up to 8000 locations are there. Now these 3000 to 8000 address, this will be used by user process. Okay, and how it will be used by the user process, in the sense it will be used by the user process in a contiguous way, that is in a continuous way. So if the first user process, if it occupies this location, then the next user process will occupy this location. Okay, and the next user process will occupy this location. Okay. Generally, memory will be allocated to the process in a contiguous way. Okay, and it goes on, so on and so forth. Okay, so this is the overall concept of contiguous memory allocation. So that's what we are going to discuss. Contiguous allocation is the early method of memory allocation. So normally the operating system and interrupt vector table occupies the lower memory and user process will be held in the higher memory, that is above the operating system. User process will be stored. So each process is contained in a single contiguous section of memory. Fine. Okay, so now let us have a brief idea about memory protection. So already we have discussed the memory can be protected. Here protection in the sense how we will ensure that a particular user process is accessing only only the only the locations which the particular process is supposed to access. That is how the system hardware will ensure that a process is not crossing its boundary. Every process will have a boundary in terms of its memory allocation, like its starting memory and its ending memory. It cannot access and it should not access anything beyond that. So how the hardware ensures that, in the sense hardware ensures that by using base register and limit register. Okay, so as we have already discussed, base register contains the smallest value of the physical address. Okay, that is starting address from which address this particular process can access. And limit register contains the range of logical address. So here we say logical address. See, there is one thing we have to see. Base register contains physical address. Physical address is the actual address. Actual address, the actual starting address from where this process will be located in the memory. Whereas limit register contains the range of logical address. This is not physical address. So this is a logical address. Okay, it means it's a relative address. It is a relocatable address. It's logical with respect to what? It is logical with respect to the actual physical address, right? Now the logical now now the CPU, when CPUs tries to access any memory location, CPU will not give the physical address. CPU will give the logical address. CPU will try to access the memory by using the logical address. Okay, then the memory hardware will check whether the logical address that is given by the CPU is it less than the range, is, is it less than the range of logical address. Range is nothing but, say the process P1 can access starting from location 3000 to location 4000. Okay, process P1 can access this many locations. It can access from 3000 to 4000. So it means starting from 3000 it can access up to 3009th location. Sorry, 3999 location. 4000 it cannot access. 4000 is the limit. Okay, it cannot access from 4000. Okay, so the actual address it can access is, it can access from 3000 to 3999. Okay, so this much locations it can access, right? Now now what will be stored in physical address? Now what will be stored in the base register? Base register will contain the smallest physical address. What's the smallest physical address? That is 3000. Whereas the limit register will contain the range. Range is nothing but length. So what is the maximum locations it can access? 3000 to 3999. Okay, so that is 3000 to 4000, where 4000 is not included, excluding 4000. Okay, so the logical address will have 1000. Logical address will have 1000, right? Now logical address will have 1000. I mean the limit register will have 1000. Okay, limit register will have 1000. Now this 1000 is what? Now this 1000 is not the physical address. 1000 is the logical address. Now this 1000 is not the physical address. 1000 is the logical address, whereas this 3000 is the physical address. This 3000 is the physical address and this 1000 is the logical address. Now the CPU will give a logical address and say that I want to access this location. The memory hardware will check whether the logical address is given by the CPU is less than the limit register value or not. Okay, if the say CPU is saying that I want to access the memory location 500, okay, then the memory hardware will check whether it is less than the content of limit register. Yes, 500 is less than this particular uh, whatever the content stored in the limit register, so it will be allowed to access. But before allowing to access, this 500 will be added with the content of base register. What is base register? 3000. So the resultant address will be the physical address. So the resultant address will be what? 3500. Now the CPU will be allowed to access the location 3500. Okay, so this is how the concept of logical and physical address works, right? Whatever stored in the base register will be always physical address. Whatever stored in the limit register will be always logical address or relative address. And CPU address, initially it will create a logical address and that will be compared with the limit register to ensure that the value produced by the CPU is less than the limit register. If it is less than, then only it will be allowed to access. But before accessing, the logical address will be converted to physical address by adding it with the content of the base register. Okay, right? So this converting the logical address to physical address will be done by a unit called MMU, memory management unit, and that will be done dynamically during runtime. Okay, so why should we what there is another important reason why should we use this base register and limit register in the sense. Mm, See, there is another important and beautiful usage of base register. See, sometimes the operating system size may vary. Sometimes the operating system size may vary. In the first slide, we have discussed that we assume that operating system is stored from location 000 to 3000. Okay, so that is what we have discussed, 000 to 3000. Okay, so actually 0000 to 2099 it is stored. That is limit. The final end is 3000. Okay, where 3000 will not be used for. So 0000 to 3000 operating system is stored along with interrupt vector table. Okay. Now assume that sometimes what happens in the sense the operating system size may shrink and it may grow. The size of the operating system need not be always same. Okay, it may dynamically the size may change. Okay, say for example operating system want to load one extra driver, hardware driver, say print driver. For simplicity let us assume print driver it want to load. So this print driver also will be treated as a part of the operating system, will be treated as a part of the operating system. Now say this print driver occupies another 200 MB. So this location now the operating system is not up to 3000, it is up to 3200. It is up to 3200. Okay. Now if a user process P1 comes, if a user process P1 comes, its base register will be having the value 3200. Its base register will be having the value 3200. Okay. Are you getting? So say so now, but but assume that uh, but assume that mm, but assume that this driver is not there. If this driver is there, then the operating system size will go up to 3200. And obviously because of that reason base register of P1 will be having the value 3200. But if this driver is not there, then the operating system size will be only up to 3000. In that case, the base register of the process P1 will be having the value 3000. It will not be 3200. Okay. So this can be easily done by just changing the value of the base register. Okay, you need not change anything else. Logical address you need not change, because logical address is the relative address. It is relative to the base address, right? So CPU do not do anything else. CPU will always create logical address, and that logical address will be compared whether it is less than the content of limit register, and then just add with the limit register. If print driver is there, the logical address will be added with 3200. If print driver is not there, the logical address will be added with 3000. Okay. So 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 this presence of this relocation register, base register is also called as relocation register. This feature of relocation register allows kernel, that is operating system kernel, to include transient programs so that kernel size can change dynamically. Okay, so operating system is nothing but kernel. So by including with the availability of relocation register, the kernel size can change dynamically if there are any transient programs. Transient program means the programs which will not stay in the memory permanently. They may come and go. This print driver is an example of transient memory. It may stay for some times and then it may leave. If it stays, no, then operating system size will increase. If operating system size increases, then accordingly other processes relocation register or base register content should be updated. Okay, similarly, if operating system size decreases, then also the the base register content or the relocation register content of other processes should be updated. Okay, if the base register content of P1 changes, then obviously P2 will also change, right? Are you getting? So if P1 is stored from 3200 to 4000, then if the operating system starts at 3200, then P1's base register will be 3200. For P2's base register it will be 4000. Okay, but if it starts at 3000, if operating system ends at 3000, then P1's base register will be 3000 and P2's base register will be 3800. Okay, so 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 basically it allows the relocation register allows uh, the operating system size to grow or shrink dynamically. Okay, so that is the role of the, that is also one of the usage of relocation register. So this diagram again explains the same thing. So CPU creates a logical address and that will be checked with the limit register, whether is it less than the limit register value or not. If it is less, it will be allowed to access. But before accessing, the content of the whatever the address CPU generated, that will be added with the content of relocation register. Relocation register is nothing but base register. Base register is otherwise called as relocation register. That's it. Okay. And then by adding that, what you get is called as physical address. And now the CPU will be allowed to access the memory content of that particular location. Okay. Suppose if the logical address generated by the CPU is not less than, if it is greater than or equal to the content of limit register, if it is not less than the content of limit register, then it will create an error, which is a trap, okay, which is a hardware interrupt. Fine. So next we will be discussing an important concept which is called as multiple partition allocation. Fine. So far what we have understood in the sense, the process, the operating system will always occupy the uh, lower part of the memory, or lower address to memory. Okay, the rest of the part will be left for the processes. And also we have discussed that operating system size may grow and shrink depending on the transient programs, and that will be adjusted by immediately updating the respective value of the base register or relocation register. Okay. Now, when processes comes, how it will be allocated in the memory? Okay, we know it will be allocated contiguously, but how? So there are two different ways of doing that. One is called as fixed size partition. There are two different ways of doing that. One is called as fixed size partition, okay, and the other one is called as variable sized partition. There are two methods in which the processes will be allocated to the memory in a contiguous fashion. One is fixed size partition and the other one is variable size partition. Okay. First, let us see what is fixed size partition. With fixed size partition, what will happen in the sense, the entire memory will be divided into partitions of fixed sizes. Okay. So let us assume that, as usual, let us assume the starting address is 3000. Okay. Say operating system occupies up to 2000. Okay, then the remaining entire memory, say it is divided into partitions of size 100 MB each. So the first partition will go up to 2100. Okay, that is actually 2000 to 2099, that is 100 locations, right? Then the second partition will go to 2100 to 2200, that is 2100 to 2199. The third partition will go up from 2000 to 2200 to 2300. Okay, so on and so forth, it continues. So your entire memory will be divided into some fixed size partition. Here the fixed size what we are taking as 100 MB. Okay, fine. Now when a process comes, it will be allocated the first available 100 MB. Okay, say a new process comes, process P1 comes. Say it needs exactly 100 MB memory. It needs exactly 100 MB memory. So P1 will be allocated this location because you have to allocate contiguous memory. So after OS, immediately P1 will be allocated. Say next P2 comes. Now P2 says that P2 wants, say, 50 MB of memory. It doesn't need 100 MB memory. P2 needs only 50 MB of memory. So what will happen in the sense, next available slot. So these are called as slot or holes. Okay, the 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 partitions which are empty can be called as holes or slots. Okay, so the next available slot will be allocated for P2. But here what happens in this sense, P2 is going to use only 100 MB, 50 MB. Remaining 50 MB will be wasted. Remaining 50 MB will be wasted. It will not be used by anybody because already we divide the memory into partitions. So you cannot do anything further. So whether you fit the partition or you don't fit. Okay, so here what happens in the sense, there is a wastage of memory of 50 MB. Okay, there is a wastage of memory of 50 MB, right? So next another process comes P3. So P3 says that it needs 175 MB memory. It needs 175 MB memory. So what will happen in the sense, operating system will allocate the next slot for P3, but it has only 100 MB. Again, it will allocate another slot also for P3. Okay, but here it needs only 75 MB. So in this memory, 25 MB will be wasted. In this memory 25, in this block 25 MB will be wasted. Again here for P2 50 MB is wasted. So totally if you see the wastage is 75 MB. 75 MB memory got wasted. Okay, so this so this type of memory which is getting wasted due to fixed size partition is called as internal fragmentation. The memory that is getting wasted because of fixed size partitioning, that memories are called as, basically they are called as fragmentation, because the memory got fragmented. That is, it is splitted into pieces and it is becoming unusable. Okay, and if this fragmentation are created, due to fixed size partition, then they are called as internal fragmentation. Okay, the fragmentation that are created due to fixed size partitions are called as internal fragmentation. Okay, the fragmentations that are created due to fixed size partitions are called as internal fragmentation. Okay, so this is about fixed size uh, fixed size partition. Okay, we are talking about multiple partition allocation. So this is how fixed size partition works, and this fixed size partition will create a problem, and that problem is called as internal fragmentation. Okay. Next, let us see how variable size partitioning works. With variable size partitioning, what happens in the sense, the initial setup is same. That is, operating system will occupy the lower memory address along with the interrupt vector table. So as usual, let us assume that operating system occupies starting from location 0000 to location 2000. Okay. Now in variable size partitioning, so here we are discussing about variable size partitioning. In variable size partitioning, we won't divide the memory into several fixed size partitions. In fixed size partitioning, you will divide the memory into fixed size partitions. In variable size partitioning, we won't do like that. So initially the entire memory will be free. So this entire free memory will be considered as one single whole. This entire free memory will be considered as one single whole. Okay, that is, when a process comes, it will be just added to the whole. Now assume that a process P1 comes, which demands, let us assume the same scenario. Process P1 asks 100 MB memory. Okay, fine. You allot the first available 100 MB. So P1 will occupy 2000 to 2100. 2000 to 2100 MB. That is actually 2000 to 2099. Okay. And then say P2 comes. P2 says it needs 50 MB. Okay. Done. P2 got next 50 MB. So that is P2 occupies from 2100 to 2150. Okay. So next the process P3 comes and it needs 175 MB. Okay. So fine, P3 will be allocated 175 MB memory. So that is 2150. How much 175 is? 2325, right? 2000 2325 up to 2325 location. I mean 2125 to 2324. Okay. So P4 P3 was given this much memory. Okay. Fine. Now let us see here what is the problem we'll face in the sense. Let us assume one more process, say P4. So P4 says it needs another 100 MB. So P4 got 2325 to 2425. Okay, 2425. P4 got memory from 2325 to 2425. Okay, okay, fine. So actually 2325 to 2424, right? Now assume that after some times P2 completed. P2 say P2 has finished the execution, but P2 is using only how much memory? 50 MB. So here what will happen in the sense this 50 MB will be freed. This 50 MB memory will be freed. Okay, this 50 MB memory will be freed. So here a hole will be created. So there is a hole and the size of the hole is 50 MB. There is a hole and the size of the hole is 50 MB. Okay, right? Okay. Say after some times P4 also completed. After some times P4 also completed. P4 occupies how much size? 100 MB. Okay. So now there is another hole. Now there is another hole. The size of this particular hole is 100 MB. Now there is another hole and the size of this particular hole is 100 MB. Okay. Let us assume there is no further memory. Let us for simplicity, let us assume that 2425 is the last location. Memory is over. Okay. Now assume that this is E hole. Okay, there is a hole of size 100 MB. Now assume that another process P5 comes. Okay, and P5 is demanding 150 MB memory exactly. P5 is demanding 150 MB memory exactly. But what happens? We have two slots. One slot is 50 MB, another slot is 100 MB. So in this 50 MB slot, you cannot accommodate P5. In this 100 MB slot also, you cannot accommodate P5. Okay. So because we need to allocate contiguous memory, you cannot allocate fragmented memory for a process, for a new coming process, right? So even though as a whole sufficient memory is available, even though as a whole sufficient memory is available, the operating system is unable to allocate memory for the new process. So this problem which is created uh, due to variable size partitioning is called as external fragmentation. Okay, so here also this memory got fragmented. So the fragmentation that is created because of variable size partitioning is called as external fragmentation. Okay, so this, right? Okay, right. Say after that another process P6 comes. Say after that another process P6 comes, and P6 is demanding say 75 MB memory. Okay, say P6 is demanding not 75. No, let us not assume 75. Oh, sorry. Say P6 is demanding just it is demanding what do you call 110 MB of memory. But this request also cannot be satisfied because this whole size is 50 MB and this whole size is 100 MB. Okay, so there is no whole size which is less than only if the request is less than 100 MB or less than 50 MB it can satisfy. Okay, so now these two requests cannot be satisfied by the operating system because of the fragmentation that is created by variable size partitioning. And the fragmentation that is created by variable size partitioning is called as external fragmentation. Okay, fine. So there is one way to eliminate external fragmentation. There is one way to eliminate external fragmentation. So how we can eliminate external fragmentation means there is a process called compaction. There is a technique called compaction. So by using the technique compaction, the problem of external fragmentation can be overcome. So external fragmentation can be overcome by using a technique called compaction. Okay. So what is compaction? Let us see. So there is a technique called compaction, and using this technique, the problem of external fragmentation can be rectified. So how in the sense you just move all the holes to one end and all the processes that are executing to another end. So in that case, what will happen in the sense In that case, what will happen in the sense, P3 will be moved below into this hole depending on its size. Okay, P3 occupies, in our case, P3 occupies how much memory? P3 occupies 175 MB. Okay, and this hole is 100 and this hole is a 50 MB hole. Okay, so P3 will come here. This addressing will slightly change. P3 will come here. Okay, and this hole will go here, and this hole will go here. Okay, this hole will go here, and this hole size is 50 MB. P3 size is 175 MB. Already P1 is occupying up to 2100. So P3 needs 175 MB. That is, it needs up to 2275. Okay, it needs up to 2000. Yeah, it needs plus 175. So 100 plus 175 is 2275. So P2 will be allocated 2200 up to 2275. Okay, and the next 50 MB, that is 2275 to 2325, there will be a hole, and the next 100 MB will be a hole, and then the operating system will merge these two holes. Now the operating system also, what it will do, as there are two adjacent holes, whenever there is a two adjacent holes, the operating system will merge these two holes and it will make it to a single hole. Now there is not two holes, now there is only one hole of size 150 MB. Okay, now it is not two holes, now there is only one hole of size 150 MB. Okay, so this process is called as compaction. So this process that is done by the operating system is called as compaction. So once compaction is done, now the request of P5 can be satisfied. Now the request of P5 can be satisfied. Now P5 can be given access to this particular hole, which is of exactly 50 MB. Okay, so this is how the external fragmentation can be dealt with, right? So that's what here we are discussing. The degree of multi-programming will be determined by the number of partitions, because depending on the number of partitions, that many processes can be in the memory. So there are, okay, so this diagram shows how the partitioning is happening. Okay, so here OS is shown at the top. That doesn't mean that it is using higher address. No, the address also you can start from here. Okay, so address you start from here. So OS, you can say that it is stored from 0000 to 2000. Okay, so always OS, throughout our discussion, we are assuming it is stored in the higher address. You can see the, I mean, you can represent it in any way, right? So there are three processes, process 5, 8, and 2. Okay, at one point of time. Say process 8 is completed, then here a hole is created. Now a process 9 comes, which is of, so it is allocated with one of the hole. This hole is, because this hole is sufficient enough to accommodate process 9, so it was given. And then process 10 is coming, so again it is also given. But now if some other process comes, most probably it may not be able to use this space. Okay, now how the holes were allocated in case of dynamic memory, I mean in case of a variable size partitioning. Say there are sufficient holes. Say the memory has sufficient holes. There are a lot of holes in the memory. Okay, so when so let us assume this way: operating system is stored from 0000 to, okay, 2000. Okay, up to 2000 it is stored. Now say that some of the processes were occupying some locations. I'm not giving any address just to make things easier. Say there is a hole here. Let us say all the holes are represented as H. Then there is a process. Then there is a hole. Okay. So there are many holes. There are many holes, and there are sufficient processes also. Okay. So let us assume the memory is not ending here. It is continuing. Okay. So you have many holes like this. Okay. Now when a new process comes, which hole should be allocated? Okay, so there are many ways of doing this. Basically there are two ways of doing this, three ways of doing this. The first method is called as first fit. First fit in the sense, allocate the first hole that is big enough for the process. Okay. Say if the process needs 100 MB, and if this hole occupies, if this hole size is only 50 MB, then you cannot obviously give. Say this hole is 200 MB. If this hole is 200 MB, then this hole can accommodate a 100 MB process. So give this hole. Let the process, new process comes here. That is what first fit says. First fit says that you just to browse through all the holes, starting from the beginning location, and whichever the first hole you find that is big enough to fit this process, allocate that hole for that particular process. That's it. Okay, that is first fit. That is one approach. This is one algorithm. The second algorithm is best fit. Best fit says that you search all the holes, check this hole, check this hole, check all the available holes in the memory, and identify the smallest hole that is big enough to fit this process. Okay. Say say the process needs 100 MB. You are searching all the holes, and you finally find that there is a hole with 110 MB, and there is no other hole which is less than 110 MB and greater than or equal to 100 MB. Okay, so then you allocate this hole. Okay, or you find a hole exactly 100 MB, then you allocate that hole. Or you find a hole with 101 MB, allocate that. That is, you identify the uh, search the entire memory and identify the smallest hole that is big enough to fit this particular process. Okay, right? So whenever you fit a process, no, there will be some space left over. The remaining space will be again treated as a whole. And then the worst fit. Worst fit says that again you search the entire memory and find the largest hole for this particular process. Whichever the hole is largest, give that hole. Okay. Say the process size is only 100 MB. So you have searched all the memory and you found that there is a hole of 1000 MB. There is a hole of size 1000 MB. Then assign this hole for this. Assign the 1000 MB hole for this particular process. If you are using worst fit algorithm. Okay. So these are the three ways in which holes can be allocated using when you are using a variable size partition. Okay. So research says that first fit and best fit gives better performance than worst fit. Okay. So the research says that simulations and research says that first fit and best fits are better than the worst fit in terms of decreasing time and storage utilization. Okay, fine. Okay, this we have already discussed. So external fragmentation or the one that is created by the uh, variable size partitioning. Okay, that is totally you have sufficient memory space. If you combine all the holes, then you have sufficient memory space to satisfy the request of a particular process. But these holes are not contiguous. This problem is called as external fragmentation, which is created by variable size partitioning. Okay. Whereas internal fragmentation that happens with fixed size partitioning, that is allocated memory may be slightly larger than the requested memory. So this size difference in memory lead to internal partition. Okay, in internal partition, I guess you remember. So always we fix the size of the partition. Okay, so if the each size is 100 MB, then if a process of 75 MB comes, then the remaining 25 MB wasted. So that is what this statement means. Allocated memory may be slightly larger than the requested memory. So most of the time allocated memory will be slightly larger than the requested memory, because even if the processor requests 1 MB memory, you have to allocate one slot. You cannot allocate anything less than one slot. Okay, if you allocate one slot, whatever the process occupies that much, then the remaining will be wasted. If the process requests more, then you have to allocate more than one slot. In that case, in the last slot, whatever you are allocating, there will be some fragmentation. Okay. So basically, internal fragmentation are created by fixed size partitioning, and external fragmentation are created by variable size partitioning. In external fragmentation, the fragmented memory can be combined. If you combine all the fragmented memory, then the request can be satisfied. Uh, but 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 as you are not combined, generally the request cannot be satisfied. Okay, fine. So external fragmentation can be reduced or avoided by using the technique called compaction. So that we have already discussed. Okay, shuffle memory contents to place all free memory together in one large block. Okay, compaction is possible only if relocation is dynamic and is done at execution time. What does it mean? Previously we have discussed different binding schemes, like binding at compile time, load time and run time. So compaction is possible only if binding is done at execution time or run time. Okay, if binding is done at compile time or at load time, it is not possible, because in that case already you are fixing the address for every process, and directly the physical address will be created. Okay, so now you cannot change the addressing. Okay, so directly the physical address, the program itself will directly refer, the process itself will directly refer to the physical address. So that will, in that way, compaction is not possible. Compaction is possible only if address binding is done at execution time. Okay, so that is what is called as relocation. Relocation is dynamic. Fine. There is also another way to avoid external fragmentation. That is, you permit the process to that is, the process may be allocated spaces in a non-contiguous fashion. So whatever we are discussing so far is that we are restricting that the process should be allocated memory contiguously. That is, if first P1 comes, then P2, then P3, in that way you have to allocate. That is what we are discussing so far originally, right? Later there may be hole created, and because of hole, that is different. But initially when the memory is empty, only OS is there. The remaining block, how it is allocated? It is allocated contiguously. First P1, then P2, then P3, it goes on that way. But the second way of dealing with external fragmentation, that technique says that if memory can be allocated in a non-contiguous fashion, then also external fragmentation can be avoided. So how, in the sense, we'll be discussing two techniques for that. One is segmentation and paging. The other one is paging. So the rest of the entire topic will be depending on this. Okay. So whatever we are going to discuss next is segmentation and paging. These are nothing but these are these are one of the solution for external fragmentation. Okay. So one solution for external fragmentation is compaction. Another solution is allowing the process to be non-contiguous, and that is done by two techniques, which are segmentation and paging. Okay, fine. So that's it about this particular topic. Let us stop here. So to have a brief overview, we have discussed what is contiguous memory allocation. We have discussed that operating system will always occupy lower address space typically, and that is what we are going to assume throughout our discussion. And memory will be always allocated to the process in a contiguous way. And then we have discussed about memory protection. Memory protection is achieved through base register or relocation register and limit register. Here the base register will have the starting physical address of the particular process. The limit register will have the range of the logical address. Okay, CPU will typically generate a logical address, and that will be compared with the limit register. Only if the logical address generated is less than the limit register, CPU will be allowed to access the memory. But before accessing the memory, the logical address will be added with the content of relocation or the base register, and then the physical address will be generated, and then the memory can be accessed. Suppose if the logical address generated by the CPU is not less than the limit register value, then the system will create a trap, which is some hardware interrupt. Okay, and also relocation register helps to make sure that the operating system size can grow or shrink depending on the requirement. So operating system size can grow when there are transient programs like device drivers which may be loaded and unloaded depending on the requirement. And then we have discussed memory allocation. We have discussed multiple partitioning method. Under that, we have discussed two techniques: the fixed size partition and variable size partition. So with fixed size partition, we may face a problem, and that problem, fixed size partition, will create one type of fragmentation, and that fragmentation is called as internal fragmentation. That is, the allotted memory for a particular process may lead to small fragments, and these fragments of memory which is getting wasted are called as internal fragmentation. With variable size partitioning, it may lead to a problem that is called as external fragmentation. That is, external fragmentation in the sense there will be sufficient holes for the new process. If there will be sufficient, if the holes were combined together, then the new process may accommodate in that hole. But actually the holes are splitted across the memory, and as they are not contiguous, the new process may not be able to fix in that available holes. So the problem which is created, this problem is called as external fragmentation, and this problem is created because of variable size partitioning. Okay, and external fragmentation can be reduced or avoided by using a technique called compaction. So compaction means move all the allocated memory to one end and move all the free memory to another end, so that when a new process comes, you can again allocate memory to the free locations. Okay, but compaction is possible only if relocation or binding is done at runtime, at execution time. Okay, if binding is done at compile time or at load time, then compaction is not possible. There is another way to avoid compaction, that is by allowing the process to be allocated in the memory in a non-contiguous style. Okay, and under that we'll be discussing two techniques, which are segmentation and paging. So that's what the rest of the topic will be. Fine. So let us stop here. Thank you.